Welcome, everyone, to What's Working. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you listening in. However you're getting the show, I'm grateful. Thank you so much. My name is Cam Marston, and What's Working is the show designed to bring you workplace, workforce, and marketplace trends. Our goal every show is to find content that you can relate to and somehow grasp a little bit of it and apply it to whatever it is that you do. My goal is that you become a little bit better at whatever it is that you do as a result of your time listening to this show. Again, welcome. The show continues to grow, and I know I've said that a lot. We're now broadcast around 24 different markets across the country, 28, 29 different plays across the country. People play it multiple times. Our What's Working with Cam Marston Business Tips just gained its 43rd market, and it continues to grow. It's really exciting around here. And I'll tell you about this upcoming show, a very controversial topic, very much a marketplace trend. I'll get to that in 1 second. But I want to comment on the feedback we've had from last week's show. If you tuned in, the interview was with a gentleman named Aaron Beam. Aaron's somewhat claim to fame is that in his boss's office, his boss was a man named Richard Scrushy. In his boss's office many years ago, after being pressured by his boss, according to Aaron's story, Aaron agreed to begin changing the financials of this publicly traded company. It was, to say it in the lexicon of our time, Aaron began to cook the books. And his story is one of caution. His story is one of regret. He is a big proponent today of teaching ethics in the workplace. And the number of listeners we got on that show, as I saw on the podcast downloads, was abnormally high for this show. And I think people could relate to it. They wanted to hear it. They sent it to their friends and whatever. But what I want to talk about real quick is the feedback. We've had two very distinct veins of feedback on Aaron Beam's show. The first one that came in was, how dare you put this man on the radio? This man's ethical misbehaviors cost a lot of people a lot of money. And there's likely a very good point in that. The person that said this, and by the way, this was communicated to me over LinkedIn, the person that said this is that we should give essentially this man no light, no airtime, no space to air his grievances, because what he did, the initiative he took to begin to change those books cost a lot of people a lot of money. And there is no reason we should give him any attention because of that. Essentially, he said in his message to me on LinkedIn, shame on you for posting this show, for even interviewing the guy. Immediately following his post to me was another guy. And his comment was, hey, this is the type of stuff that we in corporate America need to hear. And in fact, this guy was a part of cleaning up Health South. He came in after it was exposed and said, this is a part of corporate America that we need to hear. We need to be reminded of the frailties and the lessons of mistakes like this. And there is nothing wrong. And in fact, it's highly encouraged that you post these shows of repentant people that made business decisions that cost a lot of people money, particularly unethical business decisions. His message was, it's a very slippery slope. And when you get in the heat of the battle, if you will, you are tempted to make very convenient decisions, though they can not be the most ethical and good decisions. So we had people weighing in on both sides, and it was a very interesting debate. Anyway, if you didn't hear the show, you can find it at what'sworkingcam.com. The guy I interview is named Aaron Beam. He was a former accountant with Health South. Really interesting conversation. I hope you'll check it out and weigh in on it. Reach out to me. Put it on LinkedIn. Let me know what you think, or email me directly. This week's show, car batteries, electric car batteries, not the ones in your gas-powered car, but electric car batteries for electric vehicles. Are they as good as they say they are? What's the truth behind them? And then we got a special commentary to wrap the show up towards the end from my favorite commentary that's a high school junior about why you should hire her generation. She's Gen Z. A lot of stuff out there saying, avoid this generation. She's going to take the other point of view. You're listening to What's Working. Glad you're joining us. We'll be right back.
This is Seth Cherniak, Vice President of Branch Development for the Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group. If you're an experienced financial advisor wanting the freedom of independence but aren't sure making that jump is right for you, we should talk. Jeffrey Matthews has developed a successful program for advisors who don't want to be 1099 contractors and don't want to pay for their own overhead. We're looking for advisors who want the freedom to run their business the way they see fit with the support that comes with a W-2 firm. If you're interested in joining one of our branches, or if you want to open your own branch as a full-time employee, let's chat. Our compensation plan is one of the most competitive among all W-2 firms, big or small. Reach out to us today at jeffreymatthews.com, connect with me, Seth Cherniak, on LinkedIn, or click the link in the podcast.
Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group, member FINRA, SIPC. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We got a lot of new stations listening in today, and I'm going to give you a sense of what you can expect from this show in your different markets, and I will do that by telling you what's upcoming. On the line with me, actually on the opposite side of a Zoom call, Maria Caballero. She's the president of E-Mobility. I'll tell you a little bit more about Marie as we go along. Her background is impressive. Marie, if I read your bio correctly, 2 engineering degrees, one from the University of Cadiz and the other from the University of Michigan. We'll tell you why that's important in a moment. And the second person on the call is John Boyer. He's the president of Terrepower. John is located in Spanish Fort, Alabama. Marie is in, where did I see this, Marie? You're in Dearborn, Michigan, up there in the car manufacturing capital of our nation. John also has multiple engineering degrees in his background. Grateful to have them both on the show. The focus of the show, John and Marie, is the myths around the electronic car battery. Are these things good? Are they bad? Do they last a long time? Do they last a short time? Do they cause a black hole to open up in the Earth's crust whenever they go bad? Do they catch on fire when the temperature outside gets over 90 degrees? I want to talk about these things and teach my listeners what is true, what is not true. Marie, let's begin with you. Tell me a little bit about your background and what you know about, I mean, it's a wide open question, but what do we need to know about the EV market, and particularly the batteries that your company, E-Mobility, works with?
So it's an up-and-coming market, right? It's still small compared to the overall car park, but it's growing like crazy. Last year, it grew at 46%. And the EV market is projected to grow to somewhere around 50% by 2035 or 2040. So it's a reality. It's growing. Over 10 states have now assisted or subscribed to the mandate that by 2035, they will only sell EVs. So it's a reality. It's coming. And we at BBB are ready for it. Understanding that the battery is the most expensive part of the car, we have developed and are working with many customers on developing remanufacturing solutions so that those batteries are accessible and affordable to the consumers when they need them.
So BBB Industries, you mentioned, let's make sure everyone's clear on here. E-Mobility is a division of BBB Industries, correct?
Correct. So let me give you a quick background there.
Perfect.
BBB is a lead sustainable manufacturer that services parts in the automotive, industrial, and solar energy markets. Terrepower is the division of BBB that handles batteries, solar, and stationary power. So Terrepower, a division of BBB. BBB Sustainable Manufacturing, it's the value of what we stand for. Our mission is to provide parts with a second life by reusing the material, reducing waste, and reducing the resources required to build the parts while being environmentally friendly. That is at the heart of what we do for many parts in all of these markets that I mentioned, automotive, industrial, and solar, and in particular for the batteries.
It seems obvious, but give me a scenario where your parts may be used, where a customer listening may have actually touched or utilized or been in contact with the parts that you remanufacture.
Yep. So anybody that has purchased a remanufactured starter, alternator, turbocharger, caliper, steering rack, it's probably coming from us. They're available throughout the nation. We have a large footprint in North America. And also in 2020, we entered the European market. So now we sell a very wide range of sustainable manufactured parts in Europe, in many of the Western European countries. So a worldwide presence, anything that's remanufactured, it's probably us.
And you're now adding car batteries to that list as well as calipers, steering columns, the things that you said, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So we've been in business since 1987. As you mentioned, the company started as a small family-owned business in Mobile, Alabama. Now we have headquarters in Mobile and Dallas, Texas. And I've been doing this for 35 years, putting the resources, the engineering, the ingenuity that is required to take a part that has been used, take it apart, replace whatever parts are required, test it to an OE spec or like new spec, I should say, to make sure that the part when it goes out there has truly a second life. And we've been doing this for so many years for so many products. So we feel pretty good about our track record.
John, Maria talked about how the EV market has grown 46%, I think she said, is current purchases out there, with only growth coming in the future. Terrepower hoping to be a part of that, I'm guessing, in the remanufactured car batteries. But the reputation of these things, let's say it differently. What I see on social media, and I hate it that this is the case, what I see on social media suggests that these things are inefficient, that they actually scar the earth more than solve the earth, which is the pitch for them, right? Help the planet out by an EV. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so with any new components in a vehicle, whether it's a battery, a starter, an alternator, obviously there's a carbon footprint that goes along with that. You have to mine the materials. You have to take it through the manufacturing process, which uses energy. And so the same holds true for batteries, right? And what we try to do at BBB and Terrepower is make sure that we're utilizing that material in a way that extends the life to its maximum, to make sure that an EV battery, therefore an EV vehicle, remains sustainable for a long period of time. So a lot of what you hear in the news is that, batteries are harmful to the environment, which is a true initially, because you have to, again, mine the materials, take it through the manufacturing process. But then an EV, as it's on the road, is not producing that carbon footprint because it emits zero emissions. And so that catches up to what an ICE vehicle would do because it's not emitting those emissions. And then it comes to, okay, when I replace the battery, what happens? And
Right.
that's where we come in. And through our remanufacturing process, we're able to reuse a lot of those materials. So instead of mining new materials to create another new battery, we can reuse some of those materials, therefore making that battery more sustainable longer, therefore reducing the carbon footprint of replacing a battery with a new one.
Hey, if I buy a new electric vehicle, how brand new off the shelf, off the rack, off the lot, how long is the battery expected to last in a traditional, normal use of that car, John?
Right. So the OE manufacturers, car manufacturers, warranty the battery for 8 years, 100,000 miles. That's the typical warranty on new batteries. So with that as the backdrop, they're expecting, they're not expecting to replace them. So I'd say that's kind of the minimum, but it really depends on how the vehicle is used, what climate that battery's in, cold versus hot versus normal temperatures, the driving habits of the car owner, and the charging habits of the car owner. Those all play into the life of the battery. So it's a hard one to answer. But in severe circumstances where the vehicle owner is not maintaining the battery well through the charging cycle, or they're using it in very cold or very hot climates, the battery might fail as early as 5 years or under 100,000 miles, in which the OE would have to replace it. But more than likely, that battery is going to last through that 100,000 miles and upwards of 200,000. So we've seen vehicles out there that have lasted over 200,000 miles as well.
We're coming up to a break. John and Maria, I'm going to get you back after this, and we want to talk about what the replacement cost is. If I were to buy it new, if I were to buy it refurbished from you, I want to know where you get your batteries and what is the magic you do to them to make them work again like new. It's probably the secret sauce, but we'll see what they'll tell us. We'll be right back. You're listening to What's Working.
This is Bill Eastet. I perfected my baking recipe behind my live music stage at my little restaurant in Fairhope, Alabama. We have custom-made smokers and small batch bacon made just for you. So if you're looking for the best bacon in America that has been cured, smoked, and even serenaded by songwriters, you definitely need to try Billy's Small Batch Bacon. www.billysbacon.com.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm on the other side of a Zoom call from Maria Caballero and John Boyer. They both work for BBB Industries. John's with the Terrepower division. Maria is president of e-mobility. John also president of Terrepower. We're talking a little bit about the batteries that BBB Industries work with in regards to electronic vehicles. They both work with a number of refurbished car parts, but we are focusing this episode specifically on the electronic vehicle batteries. John, prior to the break, and then Maria will pick you up again, I want to know a little bit about where you get these expired batteries. We talk about the lifespan of a car battery being, according to what the manufacturer says, 100,000 miles. And at that point, does the battery stop? It certainly doesn't stop, but it's got to hold a reduced charge. What happens at 100,000 miles that make that battery no longer useful?
So yeah, like I said before going into break, batteries, I think the minimum expected is 100,000 miles. They could go beyond that. But typically what happens is they start losing their capacity. And so what that does is it impacts the range of the vehicle. So if you bought a car that was new and it had a range of 300 miles, and after 100,000 miles, it might only have a range of 200 miles. That's what the car owner sees, right? And so where we get these batteries is typically from our customers that we work with to supply a replacement remanufactured battery. We get that old battery back, and then through our process, bring the state of health and capacity of that battery back up to an acceptable level for the customer, and then ship it out. And then typically with all remanufactured, that process and that cycle just continues. So we get the old one back and a new one, or refurbished one, goes out.
How do you do that? How do you take the old one and make it new again? This is you dip it into the fountain of youth. This is the Ponce de Leon fountain of youth. What is the process?
So when we get a battery, we have self-developed proprietary diagnostic tools. So we talk to it and find the state of health of the battery. And from there, we determine what needs to be replaced. Oftentimes could be the modules or a cell, a wiring harness, whatever it is. So we replace that, and then we do a full testing to get the battery to the proper state of health before shipping it to the consumer. Again, it's been 35 years of engineers developing processes for the other products that kind of carry over, at least in the concept of it, and then just using it specifically for the battery. We have specific testers, specific procedures that we have to follow for the batteries, and do so.
Yeah. So are there people, technicians, with their hands on each individual battery? They're working with the guts of the battery, or is it something that they plug in and a machine refurbishes the battery? It sounds as if it's a labor-intensive process to do this.
It is, and it requires technical knowledge and loads of safety equipment as we're talking about high voltage parts. But yeah, it's pretty much all of the remanufacturing. Think about it, every part is different. We do 33,000 SKUs, different parts within BBB, because we do only service, right? That is what we do. So every part tends to be different, and it leads itself to manual processes, but they're high technology purposes because we're very proud of our testers and what they can do to ensure the quality of the product. So it's heavy engineering on the tester and the process, and then manual labor to get it done.
Give me a sense of what a refurbished car battery, electric vehicle battery, would cost versus if I were to buy it anew again. What is the difference in price? It's got to be significant, I'm guessing.
Yes, we can say it's a fragment.
It's a fragment of the other cost,
yes.
But you're craftily dodging the answer. I'm not going to press it. I'm grateful for your time and attention on the show, so I'm not going to press it. That's not what the show is about. So let me recap what I've heard and make sure I'm on the right footing here. Yes, there is a cost to creating these batteries. There is an environmental cost, just like there's an environmental cost to creating any product within a car. But the benefit is that this battery does not create the waste that a car does. As the pithy saying goes, the man that runs behind the car gets exhausted. This car does not create the exhaust, which is the environmental benefit. There's no doubt there is an environmental cost, just like there is in creating anything in natural resources. But the benefit is no CO2 emissions out of the back of that car. And those no CO2 emissions should outweigh the cost to creating the battery. Is that correct?
Correct.
If I am a consumer out there listening to this show going, I love my Tesla. It's a cool little thing, but the battery is slipping. It used to have a 300-mile range. It's got a 250-mile range. I'm very interested in this. I would imagine Tesla, and we'll just pick them, there are others, they want you to buy their battery again versus yours. So you are in competition with the OEMs for these car batteries. Is that correct? Maria?
We work with OEMs. I apologize for the delay. We're working with several OEMs together with them to develop solution for their parts. I can't, because of confidentiality, I can't disclose who we're working with, but we're working with them.
Are you selling, it's probably going to be a confidentiality restriction here, but are you selling your refurbished batteries under the brand of the original manufacturer batteries?
Correct.
You are. Very interesting. Okay. So if I am driving a Tesla, any one of these electronic vehicles, and I want the battery replaced, and I find you, what happens? Do you take care of the current battery? We'll take it, Cam, ship it to us, get us to us, drop it off at whatever it may be. How does that interaction happen?
We have a full network of logistics. Just to give you an idea, BBB has overall 12 plants and 19 logistics centers, which are located across the country in the US and as well as Europe. So we leverage that network and we work with our customers to make sure that the batteries get to the proper location.
Okay, so there are, if I would be interested, it wouldn't be on your website. It would be with a manufacturer somewhere. Is that correct? Or a replacement auto parts site?
We don't sell consumer direct in any of our products. We work with our customer base. They have the distribution channel. But typically, to your question, typically they would have a battery already to offer the customer. And then that refurbished or remanufactured battery goes to the customer. We get the old one back, bring it into one of our facilities, remanufacture it, and then that's available for the next customer that needs one.
Who is your biggest competitor? Maria, you're with e-mobility, a part of BBB Industries. John, Terrepower, part of BBB Industries. Who is your competitor? Is it safe to say that your competitor are the petroleum companies? They want to put out posts of kittens and pandas on fire due to electronic car battery mistakes?
Yeah, our competitors are few and far between just in the markets we serve. From a remanufactured standpoint, there's very few competitors, especially with the scale that we have to do what we do. We're not creating parts for new vehicles, so we don't compete at that level. We're more on the repair side of things. So our competitive base is pretty limited.
Yeah. Maria?
Yeah, other people that do remanufacturing and refurbishments, and those are our competitors.
Yeah. And do you see again, I go to social media, which is, of course, is our nation's most truthful accounting of everything that happens in our country comes through social media. We can always look on whatever it is and know whatever people are posting is the truth. You're constantly dispelling rumors that you see there. I suspect you go to a cocktail party and there are people like me going, "You're killing the redwoods and there's a kitten on fire somewhere." Is that the case?
No.
Yeah, they're shaking their heads, folks. They don't know how to answer that. I've got more questions when we come back from break. In fact, I asked ChatGPT to help me with questions for these two people. I'm trying to learn how to use that technology. We'll be right back. You're listening to What's Working.
This is Seth Cherniak, Vice President of Branch Development for the Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group. If you're an experienced financial advisor wanting the freedom of independence, but aren't sure making that jump is right for you, we should talk. Jeffrey Matthews has developed a successful program for advisors who don't want to be 1099 contractors and don't want to pay for their own overhead. We're looking for advisors who want the freedom to run their business the way they see fit, with the support that comes with a W-2 firm. If you're interested in joining one of our branches, or if you want to open your own branch as a full-time employee, let's chat. Our compensation plan is one of the most competitive among all W-2 firms, big or small. Reach out to us today at jeffreymatthews.com, connect with me, Seth Cherniak, on LinkedIn, or click the link in the podcast.
Jeffrey Matthews Financial Group, member FINRA, SIPC. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. I'm on the opposite side of a Zoom call from Maria Caballero. She's zooming in from Dearborn, Michigan. Also zooming in is John Boyer. He's zooming in from Spanish Fort, Alabama. He's the president of Terrepower. Maria is the president of e-mobility. One of the things I think it's interesting to talk about is the technology of batteries. So I remember back in the day when I had my first iterations of cell phones that they didn't last very long, but they continue to, it seems like the batteries continue to get smaller and the capability of the cell phone gets greater with this battery power. Are we seeing the same things in the batteries that you remanufacture for your cars, that they are becoming more efficient, long-lasting? Can we assume that the same technology that's changing my cell phone is changing the batteries that you all work with as well? Maria?
Yes, you can expect the same thing, as there is heavy investment by the battery manufacturers in increasing the range of the battery, with that being one of the major concerns. So we're going to see batteries that have a longer range and that take shorter time to charge.
And when can we expect to see that? Is every new iteration of my cell phone boasts new battery power? Is it happening as quickly with what you work with as it is on my cell phone?
We're looking at probably 2030 before the biggest change in technology can probably happen, but it will be increasing. Performance will be continue to increase. And maybe when we get to solid state, again, in the 2030 range, we'll see a bigger jump.
Tell me about solid state. Help an arts and sciences major understand what that means.
It just means the ability to charge really, really fast.
So the solid state is not about battery capacity or longevity. It's about speedy charging.
and the ability to do so, to have more power and to do it faster.
And is it something that I can hook up to my house, or does it require an electrician to come out at that point as well? As I understand it, an electrician is required if I want to come add an electric vehicle to my household.
Yeah, this would not be available for many years, so you don't have to worry about that just yet.
Okay. What about if you're manufacturing these for the cars, these batteries, it would also lend itself to these power reserve stations. I don't know what they call it. They're batteries for the home. You know, I got a solar panel on my house. Alabama's very unfriendly to solar panels, but you got a solar panel on the house and it leads into a battery that I keep in my garage, my household, something like that. John, do you guys have your hands in that one as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we remanufacture a car battery, as Maria said earlier, we figure out what components in that battery need to be replaced to bring it up to the capacity up to an acceptable level to go back in the vehicle. A lot of times what's happened is the car battery is made of smaller pieces of battery. So we call those modules. So a car battery might have 8 or 10 different modules in it. And through our remanufacturing process, we might find that 2 or 3 of those modules need to be replaced because they're at a lower state of health. We can take those 3 modules and repurpose them to be used in energy storage because the capacity there is not as much of a concern because you can just keep adding batteries to get the capacity you need for energy storage. Where on a vehicle, you have a footprint you have to work with.
Yeah.
So that's where we come in again to say we're extending the life of these EV batteries, whether it's in a car or energy storage, and therefore creating a better carbon footprint, reducing the need for new components, and really better for the environment long term.
Better for the environment long term. We have talked about that in the process. And for those of you just joining, the argument that they've made for an electric vehicle is not about the environmental impact of creating the battery. It is about the reduced environmental impact of running that car over a period of time. And running that car over a period of time creates less of an environmental impact than it does to create the battery. So the benefit is on the utilization of the car over time. Which brings me to each of you personally. Do you drive, either of you, an electronic vehicle? And if so, I don't. I've ridden in them. I've never driven one. I perhaps live in a sheltered world here. I'd still prefer a gas-guzzling SUV, and shame on me. But do you drive one? John, we'll start with you.
I have a hybrid, so it has both a gas motor and electric system. And so it can go, on any given tank of gas, maybe 20% is electric and 80% is using the gas motor. So I haven't went full EV. It's probably in my future. I just haven't made that leap. At least for my primary vehicle, I make a lot of very long trips to see family. And so this allows me to do it without having to, stop several times to charge along the way.
Maria?
I have a hybrid as well. And I think as many people, we're cautious, right, on the transition. We don't want to get anxious about running out of batteries as we get to work. And the hybrid seems like the logical choice. I love it. It does great on mileage, it's super reliable, and it's a great vehicle. And certainly my next one will be an EV.
Yeah. So answer this question for me. I take pride in chopping my own firewood. All right. So you can imagine a big trailer full of firewood that I bring back to my house from Clark County, Alabama, which doesn't mean anything to anybody not from Alabama, but it's about 90 miles away. Could an EV pull a giant load of firewood that far, or would the battery drain before I got home? I have no idea. Could it pull my boat out of the water as I'm putting it on the trailer? I suspect that it has the power, but would it pull it out of the water and get me home, or would so much power be consumed getting it out of water? Lots of people listening to this show are not urban dwellers. They're probably wondering the answer to these questions just like I am.
Right. Yeah, the answer is yes, it will pull it, it will haul it. The question is how far, and that depends on the load. Similar, my ice truck with a gas motor, when I hook a 30-foot trailer up to it, my tank of gas only lasts, half of what it would if I wasn't pulling that trailer, because it's a very heavy trailer. The same is true with electric vehicles. If you're pulling or hauling a lot of weight, it is going to cut back on how far that vehicle will go without a recharge. So certainly it has all the power. EVs have more power typically than an ICE vehicle. But certainly the range is impacted with heavy loads.
Yeah. What can we expect going forward? What is the EV market going to look like? What are the batteries going to behave like? Maria, you were talking about a change in 2030 that will be kind of a big one. What can we expect, those of us that are curious about what the world will look like with these EVs? What's going to happen, Maria?
Yeah, we're going to see, and there is constant change in the chemistry of the battery and the minerals that are used for it, right? So we're going to see various degrees of changes as we go along. In either case, there is remanufacturing solutions for every one of them because the philosophy is the same. So I think we just need to keep thinking that putting EVs out there as a good solution to reduce CO2 emissions has to be tied up to a remanufacturing solution of the battery itself. Otherwise, we'll end up with landfills full of batteries, and that's not the idea.
That's not the idea.
Every technology can be remanufactured. And when we like a battery, for instance, we only generate 10% of the CO2 emissions that it will take to create a brand new battery. So that's what we need to be thinking about.
How can people find more about you, John Boyer, as well as Maria Caballero? How can they find out more about you? Where do they go?
If you go to bbbind.com, you can get more information on our remanufactured batteries, our energy storage, and also solar remanufacturing. We do solar panel remanufacturing as well.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Thank you, Maria. I appreciate your time. You've dispelled some myths for me, and I'm grateful for it. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're listening to What's Working, and we'll be right back.
I'm Joey Mason. For 4 years, my goal has been to produce the best farm-to-table products I'd ever eaten. I've done just that at our on-site USDA facility in Grand Bay, Alabama, allowing us to ship directly to your door. This is true farm-to-table. Visit us at masonhillsfarm.com to see all that we have to offer.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Lots of chatter out there going on about why people should avoid hiring Generation Z, the youngest members of today's workforce. Emma Gage is a high school junior. She's a member of Generation Z, and about that, she has this to say.
Lacking social skills and the maturity needed for a full-time job is likely the reason that employers may steer away from hiring younger employees. Not that I have anything against older workers, but I think the generalization that all of Gen Z lacks appropriate social cues and independence is incorrect. As a member of the workforce and Gen Z, I can see why some employers may avoid hiring younger candidates. I work at a frozen yogurt shop called Cold Snap, and I've had a positive work experience for the past 6 months or so. I work with other kids as well as college-age adults and some older than my parents. Of the people I work with, I know none of them to be frequently late, irritable, inappropriately dressed, lazy, no matter how old or experienced they are. Working and interacting with such a wide range of life experience and personality has definitely been a positive for me. I've learned how to adjust my approach based on who I'm speaking to, not only at work but in my daily life as well. However, these were skills that I had to develop over time, often by making mistakes at first. Sometimes reading a situation and deciding how to respond is difficult, especially since the rise of online meetings, interviews, and education has significantly diminished the value in learning people skills. Through watching TikTok, Instagram, and other social platforms, I've noticed that kids my age tend to hate social interaction, particularly calling to order food online, which honestly confuses me since doing that's never bothered me. Then again, I consider myself to be a pretty social person, despite being awkward at times. I think a lot of the social anxiety is a result of online schooling during COVID, since for so long we were deprived of social interaction. Also, it's not entirely our fault since a global pandemic hit during our teenage years. However, some behaviors are certainly unacceptable, such as bringing a parent to a job interview. But how can people learn the skills needed to survive in today's world if they refuse to step out of their comfort zone? I think the idea of comfort zone has been greatly sensationalized as more jobs are becoming remote. Not that working from home is wrong. It's a great option for working parents or those who may not be physically able to work in person. However, the skills developed through in-person jobs cannot be replaced with computers, Zoom, or AI. Those skills can only be developed if younger employees decide to get out of their comfort zones and commit themselves to becoming a positive member of the workforce. After all, this will be our world one day, and it's up to the younger generations to adapt and improve to the world around us, as well as uphold good work ethic and value education and working, since those things are a privilege that not everybody has.
Thanks, Emma. Emma is a high school junior here in Mobile, Alabama, a member of Generation Z. She's given us an editorial in the past, very good with her words. Happy to have her contributing to the show. Find what's working on social media. Look for me, Cam Marston, on LinkedIn. You'll find quite a bit of activity there. You'll also find us very active on Facebook, which is appropriate for my age, apparently. We'll have another show next week. Reach out. Let me know what you think. Give us some ideas. Love to hear from you. Have a good week, everybody. As you likely know, this show originates as a radio show broadcast across the state of Alabama, and it continues to grow in both radio listeners and market. After it's formatted for radio, we then turn it into this podcast. Please share it with those you think would find it interesting, and subscribe to the podcast on my YouTube page where you can leave messages and your thoughts and your comments, and I'll certainly get back in touch. Finally, if you're a fan of the show, please offer a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can find my book called What Works on Amazon.com. In it, I highlight the top 10 ideas from the first 200 episodes of the show. Mind you, they're not the top 10 best episodes, they're the top 10 best ideas. Many times the same ideas are brought up again and again by different guests, and we dig into those ideas in such a way that they'll be easily applicable for your business. Simply go to Amazon and enter my name, and you'll find What Works as well as my other books. Chapter titles include How to Find a Niche, Innovation, Building Teams, and so forth. To learn more about the workshops and seminars I offer, go to cammarston.com. There you can view clips of my work, view workshop titles, view my reviews, case studies, customer lists. It's all there. If you'd like a free copy of one of the chapters of my book, enter your email address at the bottom of the homepage at cammarston.com. And from that site, you can email me directly. I always love to hear from you. You'll also find me on social media. Find Cam Marston on all the social media platforms, and you may need to enter the numeral 1. There's one other Cam Marston out there, and that numeral 1 distinguishes me from him from time to time. So if you're unsure if it's me or not, enter that numeral 1 after my name, and it should do the trick. On a more personal and less professional side, I record weekly commentaries that air across Alabama on Alabama Public Radio twice each day on Fridays called Keeping It Real. They've won statewide and national awards. They're simple observations on the world as it goes on around me, and they're only a few minutes long. They're a passion. You can find them on the same podcast app you're using to listen to this. Finally, if you're interested in advertising on this podcast or the radio show, reach out. I've worked hard to cultivate a specific listener, and I can tell you all about them, and I have many different options for helping you reach them. Thanks again for listening. We'll have another episode available soon.